Good morning, team. It is good to see you on this Tuesday morning. Now, before we set up our desk, I just want to say thank you to all of those that had a timely discussion post submission yesterday. Not only did you get credit for being in class on time, but you also hooked me up with some TV show recommendations. Sounds like All American was something a lot of you binged watched this weekend, so maybe I'll check it out. Now, as we're setting up our desk, please make sure that you have out your class notebook, your handbook, and something to write with. We're going to continue our journey learning about sonnets, and by the end of class, you will be able to articulate how Shakespeare juxtaposes imagery to illustrate a theme in Sonnet 106. You'll be able to do this by generating a final write that includes 2 pieces of evidence and an effective zoom in and zoom out. Now, if you've been receiving exit ticket grades that have been less than stellar and less than mastery, then you should make sure you're prioritizing checking out Ms. Gifford's videos. She's been making some dope videos on zooming in and zooming out, and she just downloaded another one that will be talking about Volta. Now, your criteria for success today and what it looks like. So while we do have our workflow, you'll receive that participation grade based on our daily discussion post. So if you haven't popped over to answer that question, please make sure you do so by 8:40. You will also be graded on today's exit ticket. And let's get our notebook set up. So as you're setting up your notebook, please make sure you're doing this correctly, as you will have an impending notebook check, especially as we're launching Macbeth this week. You'll see Macbeth at the top for our title because this is our final unit, with our focus being Sonnet 106. There are going to be 4 terms that you'll need to get down, so please make sure you leave space for the definitions, which will appear on the next slide. Those terms will be sonnet, juxtaposition, irony, and diction. So again, sonnet, juxtaposition, irony, and diction. And then make sure you have a column A question filled out, which is, how does Shakespeare use irony in this text? Pause the video here if you need to, but take no more than 90 seconds for your notebook setup. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, these are the 4 key terms we're going over today. We have sonnet, our old friend juxtaposition, irony, and diction. So again, pause the video, make sure you get all 4 terms down, no more than 2 minutes. All right, so let's do a quick recap, or in this case, a succinct Shakespearean sonnet summary based off some things we learned yesterday. So we remember that Elizabethan and Shakespearean sonnets can be used interchangeably. We know that Elizabethan sonnets differ in their structure than Italian sonnets. These Elizabethan sonnets have 3 quatrains and a couplet for a total of 14 lines. We also know the Volta appears a little later in Shakespearean sonnets than it does the Italian sonnets. The Volta in Elizabethan sonnets appears in the couplet, which is the last 2 lines, and it usually summarizes the theme of the poem or introduces a fresh new look at the theme. And yes, I'm going to continue to use interchange Elizabethan and Shakespearean. And then finally, when we see that rhyme scheme, it will be A, B, A, B, C, D, C, D, E, F, E, F, and G, G. Now again, if you're struggling with Volta, there's a video for that. You should pause and go check out Ms. Gifford's video before submitting your exit ticket. Now, this is a literal comprehension check. These were the questions you saw on today's Do Now. You should have been able to answer this question: who is the speaker of this poem? We know the speaker is someone in love. If you made the big gap of putting William Shakespeare as the speaker, please remember that he is the author or the poet, but he is not the speaker. A good reference will be page 9 in your reading and writing handbook. And if you don't have that handy, I've included a screenshot of the 1-pager, and you should use that before you answer today's exit ticket. So the question you'll be answering on the exit ticket is, how is Shakespeare using irony in this text? Please make note, as you're reading this, you should be asking yourself the following. Where am I seeing our key terms being utilized? Like, where do we actually see juxtaposition? What strong diction do we see throughout this sonnet? We need to remind ourselves, what does this volta signify and where should I be looking for it? And do all of my margin notes make this connection that will help me figure out the theme? I believe that you can do it. You have the poetry, you have the brains, you have the one pager, but if you're still stuck, here are some final hints for you. What is the speaker saying in the third quatrain? Now I want you to narrow your focus even more and focus on the line that says, not skill enough, you're worth to sing. And then what is the last two lines? Again, what is the couplet asking and saying? Once you figure that out, you should be able to show mastery on today's exit ticket. If you have any questions, as always, please make sure you're reaching out. Texting me will be the quickest way possible, as Schoology does take some time to refresh, but I'll be checking both periodically throughout class.